I want to actually start a little bit here, just with some of the initial history. And you both played, I think, critical roles in the first phases of growth of USDC, and I think as a result, you both bring, I think, really great perspective. And I want to start out a little bit with with that kind of earlier history. I'm going to actually pop something up on the screen and show this, if I can figure out the right. Yeah, let's see here. So this is actually just very early days. So October 2017, about a year before actually this actually launched. And of course, this is the sensationalized headline from CoinDesk. But the idea of Center and the idea of an open interoperable protocol for digital dollars and other fiat was something we were really excited about, and that had sort of grown out of like all the early work that we'd done in payments. I think the next piece here, this is just a little sort of fun snapshot. Every project starts with a white paper, and there was the original Center white paper, and then we modified it, obviously, as we got together and launched this together. But I think this idea is still this idea that we're all pursuing, right? Which is an open, connected, global, system that makes it as easy to share value as we can, information on the internet. And I think in particular, this idea that we could eliminate artificial economic borders, we could enable a more inclusive, global financial system that connects everyone in the world. That sort of idea of a open, shared, inclusive, more evenly distributed, global economic system is, I think, a big part of what inspired, working on this. And I think, the coming together of Circle and Coinbase to kind of launch Center Consortium and then really put this out into the market a year later, I think was kind of born out of that shared set of ideas. And they're not unique to just Circle and Coinbase. I think these are ideas that bring a lot of people into crypto. But, I'd love to hear, when you think about that kind of early phase, how that mission vision sort of aligns. And obviously we'll fast forward to where we are today in that, but maybe Nemil, you could start with just sort of what brought you to this. And when you think about, Coinbase more broadly, getting behind a model like this.
Yeah, I used to laugh that for almost everyone in crypto, there's an origin story of like what got them excited, especially in the early years when it was, less mainstream. And I think for me, I'd worked in financial services, spent about a year in microfinance and microcredit and mobile payments around the world, in East Timor, in Seattle, the Gates Foundation, and in India, working on a mobile payments microfinance pilot. And I think there's something about the open programmability that was just so exciting about early crypto. And you saw that with Bitcoin, and then you saw that even more when Ethereum launched smart contracts. So I think for me, at least on a personal level, that was a core motivating factor. I think at Coinbase, there was just always an excitement around stablecoins. And I think the big things there were that they were global and they were portable. And I think a big vision we talk about at Coinbase is just creating an open financial system.
Yeah.
And so we saw the power of this like stability with global access. And that was just really, really powerful. And then number two is we're founded by engineers, and a core part of our perspectives have been about programmability. This general excitement around like programmable money and the ability to build applications on top. Just like the internet, is a series of different blocks. We saw the same different opportunity with Ethereum, with cryptocurrencies in general, and then especially the power of stablecoins to unlock more value there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Joao, I remember, in the early phase of this, saying like we want to launch this, I think in like 3 months. It's like crypto speed is different than say a lot of other industries, but it was pretty fast, and you were I think PMing a lot of things at the time, different things, but kind of started PMing this. Do you want to maybe share a little bit about that your origin story with this as well? I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been involved in Circle with primarily with our former peer-to-peer payments product, Circle Pay, that we had back in the day that has been now retired. And sort of around that date where you mentioned in the announcement, the early announcement around Center, sort of the Q4 2017, I was still heavily involved with Circle Pay back then, and heavily passionate about this idea of bringing open and global peer-to-peer payments for the world, in a way that the user experience was going to be very accessible, and it wouldn't include any high friction, any new concepts or cognition required for mainstream end users, but it would leverage public blockchains and all that infrastructure that we're passionate about in the back end. And then I think you and Sean, eventually, I know it was part of like a lot of conversations, but eventually you brought me into your office and you said, okay, we need you to PM this new thing that we're thinking about, and it is a stable coin. And at the time, it was, hats off to you guys at the time, as a PM, you immediately jump on the how. And I was thinking, how are we going to do this? This is hard. How do we even begin? But I think the shared vision and reconciling that with what we always had as a vision as part of Circle, right, which is to bring all of this infrastructure and to make it available for businesses and consumers so that they can, hopefully build a much better financial services infrastructure for the world. That was very, it clicked with me very quickly, and I was very happy to jump on that. But yeah, also the ambitions that we had then were very significant. We wanted to get something out in the market as soon as we could. But I think in the end we did the right thing, and we had a very, very intensive conversation with the industry about USDC before we touched the first few lines of code. Well, there was a lot of stuff being built already, but in terms of the actual shape and the attributes, the quality properties of the solution, I'm very proud that we had literally hundreds of conversations with folks in the industry, and it was the feeling that we could have already at that point is that it was going to be very well received, and it was going to be something that was going to be foundational. So I'm happy to sit here like about 2 years later and to see that it was actually okay.
Right. So back then, so obviously Circle and Coinbase had this kind of, I think, shared long-term vision for what's possible. An open financial system, programmable money, ubiquitous peer-to-peer kind of connectivity payments. But I think if you go back to the fall of 2018, when this launched, I think back then a lot of the attention was on, how do you build a better Tether? How do you build something that's more transparent, that's got regulatory frameworks around it, that's trustworthy, verifiable. There was sort of the whole ecosystem was saying, hey, this is needed. And I think while back in 2018, there were early projects that were programmable smart contract based projects, like the early versions of Compound or other things were just starting to kind of emerge. Really, what I like to think of as the bootstrap use case. It was you have to have a bootstrap use case. Bootstrap use case was what I call the crypto capital markets. It was this is for people who trade. This is going to be better because it's actually got real rails. You can get in and out of it. It's trustworthy and it moves. And I think, a lot of that early energy was on how do we get this to be a market or a market infrastructure that could be used in a lot of places, knowing that once you got that in place, then people could depend on it for other things, get the liquidity there, get that there. And so there was a lot, a lot of that in the beginning, and sort of in some ways, the MVP was make this simple for people to have good on and off ramps and get it out into the markets. That's sort of part of it.
It's almost like I see USDC and stablecoins as core market infrastructure. The same way we think about roads and bridges, how much they enable, let's say, the interstate system in America. In the same way, I think stablecoins are really critical in that way. And I think, Jeremy, this is just a credit to you and to Circle, but I think when you came and talked to Coinbase about this, I think the things that got us very excited from the start was just trust and how critical at Coinbase, trust is such a critical part of our brand. I think similarly for you, that was really important. Yeah. And that I think was very different from other products on the market. And so the value to clear auditing, regulated parties, I think that was a critical part for us. Yeah. Another really critical part was just the consortium model. Yeah. And we saw value. I think the idea was to get more and more parties involved and try to build like a standard. And so we saw value to the consortium model drive adoption and build standards. And I think the thing that's really interesting at Coinbase, and the same thing likely at Circle as well, was that it touched like all our products. Like we had a non-custodial wallet and Coinbase Wallet to touch that. Coinbase Commerce, if we ever want to make commerce a thing, that using cryptocurrencies, this is a critical layer for that. And it also obviously impacted our trading and our ability to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. So I think that there's just such a powerful, it's the base layer on which almost anything else is built, in the same way that a dollar or any type of trusted fiat is a base layer for a whole economy to be built on.